Hello, and welcome to this third week of ICS 5112. In the previous online posting, we had discussed the world of reality and how this world influences the way people play and learn in the process. We also discussed how games, most often irrespective of their genre, are in some way connected to the physical world, even though they might involve many fantasy elements. Whilst we had a look at using games as a participatory model of engaging citizens, we've also seen games that engage people in social entrepreneurship or innovation for the well-being of neighborhoods and their inhabitants. However, when we look at games, we cannot but not focus on the aspects of game dynamics. Game dynamics is the concept by which a set of rules guides human behavior in certain ways. It consists of a framework through which activities become like games, causing participants to feel a sense of achievement and a feeling of progression as they act in accordance with these rules. It engages the gamers in a fundamental way as they work toward a set goal. Now, a point system is often core to many games and many game dynamics, including this progression dynamic and leveling up. These dynamics would then tend to motivate people by giving positive feedback, by assigning points, badges, status, progress, customization, and even some pleasant surprises. However, blindly giving people points or any other rewards will not work over the long term because people get tired and bored rather quickly. This is what happened when we saw gamification of certain apps. Successful gamification, in fact, needs to adapt to the people's skill and find this state of flow, which is the fine line between the skill level and the challenge of a task. Despite the fact that flow, which was initially brought forward by Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, is an extremely desirable mental state, it is not easy to get into it. When a task is two people, it causes a certain sense of frustration. People tend to get anxious. When it is too easy, it causes boredom. Now, in terms of games, when it gets too difficult, people stop playing. When it gets too easy, people stop playing. So you have to achieve this state of flow which would engage gamers. That's where motivation is more likely to occur. So games operate on the basic premise that hundreds of small achievements need to happen in order for a player to meet the larger objective and advance in the game or progress. In addition, the feedback for each of these mini objectives has to be immediate. Games are fun because they have the elements of challenge, mastery, autonomy, and socialization. On every action, games give players formative feedback, whether they have succeeded or not, and how they might improve. At the same time, with experience points, levels, progress bars, and a log of completed quests and so on, players always know exactly where they stand and what they still have to do to get to their goals. As the games are directly related to human psychological needs and behavioral patterns, they become highly powerful tools for achieving goals in non-entertainment contexts. But no game can be considered meaningless, can it? Games, like other media, can have a profound effect on society at large and can be seen as cultural expressions in their own right. Players will also definitely learn something in each game, whether hand-to-eye coordination skills, whether visual, spatial skills, or an idea of how, for example, as we saw previously, the revolution in Iran may have been experienced by people. However, to intentionally achieve a meaningful effect beyond the game experience, to achieve that something that is useful in the real world, there has to be a more elaborate consideration of the needs and how this value can be achieved. The world of meaning is therefore concerned with the creation of this value. It is related to the disciplines such as the learning sciences, the psychology, and semiotics. In creating this value proposal, it incorporates aspects such as the purpose of what the game needs to achieve, the strategy of how this purpose is going to be achieved, and concrete operations that aim to achieve this purpose, and the context in which the value creation needs to take place, while among its criteria we can recognize motivation, relevance, and transfer. This is the world where teachers, storytellers, and other people that know how to achieve a certain value come together. Of course, players may neglect partly the game's meaning and just play it to spend their time, but the game itself is undeniably full of signs. First, it contains signs of what the game is about. Is it in the past? Is it related to the future? What the players need to do. Do they need to shoot enemies or solve puzzles? Second, many of these signs can relate to reality. Is this a work of fiction or non-fiction? Moreover, games can have an underlying message, such as a moral or a criticism on the real world that the players can take home. There are games that have been heavily criticized. Let's take, for example, Grand Theft Auto. In the San Andreas version, the game itself portrays several issues that are tied, for example, with poverty, with a struggle for survival, and why most often in these conditions of social hardship it is so easily to fall in a vicious circle of, for example, incorrect and unhealthy eating habits, leading to an even harder life. So this idea of having to scavenge for food to survive, okay, also sometimes leads to violence, to aggression. So the meaning that the gamers may take home may be constructed and deconstructed in view of several issues. What we find of these games is that the gamers may choose to ignore such implicit or explicit meanings, or that they might even construe their own meanings that have not even been taken into consideration by the original designers. In sum, meaning can be looked at different ways, as in what the game is, to what it relates, and how the player relates to it. These meanings, which are present in any type of game, can affect players' lives, even in situations when the underlying message is difficult to retrieve, such as in San Andreas. The player's behavior may unconsciously be altered. A player may suddenly start thinking of certain issues in a different way. Therefore, games in general, like other media, can have a profound effect on society at large, in, for instance, our attitudes and ways of thinking and acting, and can be seen as cultural expressions in their own right, which make us think about the world we are living in. Now let us consider serious games. They are intentionally designed to create a meaningful effect beyond the game experience, something that is useful in the real world, some sort of value that needs to be achieved, and at best, this value becomes measurable. Aside that this requires to understand how meaning can be created by playing games, more consideration is needed to ensure that the intended value is then achieved. So we ask questions such as, we, as designers of this game, what do we wish for our gamers to achieve? What levels of knowledge, skills, attitudes, other values would we want people who play our game to achieve? What is the meaning of knowledge, skills, and attitudes? What meaning do we attribute to these? It is important to know that there is not one single definition or algorithm that would lead users to achieve these. Remember that learning is a very complex process that in its essence is very human-centric and subject to human interpretation as well. In a game, we can target knowledge that is explicit or knowledge that is implicit, or rather hard to define or categorize. When it comes to targeting skills, we can start classifying skills into maybe cognitive, which I'm referring to as the intellectual abilities, perceptual skills, such as those related to the five senses, motor skills, those skills involving movement, social skills such as those needed for collaboration, communication, and also negotiation. As an example, I would also like to introduce a game. This game was called Village Voices. It emerged as part of an EU-funded project. It is now also currently at the focus of an Erasmus Plus project that is targeting the use of this game to support and facilitate social inclusion in schools and classroom. This game is set in a village context, where the villagers need to assume various roles to support the village's survival. This multiplayer co-collaborative game that has been designed and developed as an adaptive serious game presents random scenarios that aim at creating conflicts between the players that need to be solved for the well-being of the village. And now we return back to our views on knowledge, skills, and attitudes, and we realize how games can provide a space for the expression and emotions, as well as for the experiences that are directly related to reality. Moreover, games tap into the feelings and emotions of players because playing a game carries with it feelings of emotion. We see visions of people exulting when they win, or people who are so dejected when they lose. So this makes games a very powerful tool as a means of persuasion for people. Other values that the world of meaning offer include these values that are related to exploration, maybe related to this free learning, where you are going through the environment, exploring, building your own personal meanings from it. Something that comes to mind is, for example, Second Life. Second Life was also one of the notions of also carried one of the notions of learning through exploration. But also for data collection, testing of theories, and also assessment. The world of meaning is different from reality. It focuses on the type of value, whether knowledge or data collection, that would need to be achieved, and considers this from a whole set of different disciplines and criteria. The criteria part of this world concern, for example, motivation, relevance, the transfer. It also requires to deal with other people, and these are those that know how to create a certain value. So, however, nevertheless, as we had mentioned before, a balance needs to be reached between the three worlds. So this world needs to be reconciled with reality, for they are interdependent on each other. Without reality, there is nothing to base a game on and apply the eventual meaning to. So both are also interdependent with another world, the world of play. And we will see this more into detail next week. Thank you.